Hi y'all, this is Mrs. Catalano. Today we're going to be looking at how to draw covalent Lewis dot structures. Remember, there is a video guide that goes with this for you to fill in as you watch. However, you are also welcome to record information as you feel you need in your notebook. We're going to be talking about how to use the NASL method to determine the number of electrons that will participate in a covalent bond. So to start off, we need to calculate the number of needed electrons. And this is the number of electrons needed for all of the atoms in your covalent molecule to reach octets. Remember, each hydrogen requires 2 electrons to be an octet, while every other atom that we'll be looking at requires 8. Our next step is to determine the available electrons. And this is the total number of electrons that we have available for our use. And it's equal to the sum of the valence electrons for each atom in your compound. Remember, we can determine the number of valence electrons based on the group number. The S in NASL stands for shared electrons. To determine the number of shared electrons, you're going to take your N, or your needed electrons, and subtract your available electrons. This will give you the number of electrons that are going to be shared in covalent bonds. When we divide this number by 2, we can determine the number of bonds present in our molecule. Our last step is to determine the number of lone pair electrons. These are electrons that are around the atoms within your compound that do not participate in bonding for a covalent molecule. So, a few pointers when drawing these diagrams. First, covalent molecules tend to be symmetrical in arrangement. So, if you have, for example, a carbon atom with 2 oxygen atoms, those oxygen atoms will be arranged on opposite sides of the carbon to form a symmetrical molecule. Also, to determine the central atom for your covalent substance, it's going to be the least electronegative element. And remember, electronegativity increases as you go across a period. So your least electronegative element will be closest to the left side of the periodic table. There is an exception to this. Hydrogen cannot be a central atom, and that's because hydrogen, since it's in that first energy level, it can only form one bond with any other atom. Okay, so let's look at an example together. So our first step is to calculate our needed electrons. This one's a little bit easier since we have all atoms that need 8 electrons to reach an octet. So I'm going to take the number of atoms, in this case 5, and multiply it by 8, since each atom will need 8 electrons to reach its full octet. And 5 times 8 is going to give me 40 electrons. My next step is to determine the available electrons, and that's based on the valence electrons for that atom. Starting with carbon, carbon is in group 14 on the periodic table, so that tells us that it has 4 valence electrons. I'm going to add that to the number of valence electrons from bromine. I have 4 bromine atoms, and each bromine is going to contribute 7 valence electrons because it's in group 17 on the periodic table. When I add these values together, I get 32 electrons available in my molecule. My next step will be to determine my number of shared electrons. Remember, shared electrons is your needed electrons minus your available electrons. Some quick math is going to tell me that this is going to be 8 electrons shared between my atoms. And if I divide that by 2, I know that I will have 4 bonds in my covalent molecule. My last step is to determine the number of lone electrons. To do that, I'm going to take my available electrons, in this case 32, and subtract the electrons that are participating in a bond, or my shared electrons, in this case 8. When I subtract that, I find that I'm going to have 24 lone electrons in my molecule after I have formed bonds. Now it's time to start drawing my molecule. If I look at carbon and bromine on the periodic table, I can see that carbon is farther to the left side of the periodic table and thus is less electronegative than bromine. That means carbon will be my central atom. From here, I can connect my 4 bromine atoms to carbon using bonds. Now it's time for me to take a look at my lone electrons. Lone electrons are placed based on atoms that have an empty or incomplete octet. Starting with carbon, I see that I have a total of 4 bonds attached to it. Those 4 bonds represent 2 electrons each, which means that carbon currently has 8 valence electrons connected to it, so carbon has its full octet. Bromine, on the other hand, has 1 bond, or 2 electrons connected to it, which means it's going to need 6 more electrons to reach an octet. So for each bromine atom, I need to add 6 more valence electrons to complete the octet. Okay, all of my lone electrons have been placed, and I have used 4 bonds to construct this model. Let's go ahead and double check our math. Our total electrons in our Lewis dot structure should be equal to the number of available electrons that we calculated at the beginning. So I'm going to take a moment to go through and check to ensure that each one of my atoms has 8 valence electrons and that I have a total of 32 electrons represented in my picture. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, and 32. So that works out. Let's work another together. In this compound, I have 2 hydrogen atoms, which means that my calculation for needed electrons is going to be a little bit different. For my 2 hydrogen atoms, I only need 2 electrons for those to reach its quote-unquote octet to be stable. However, I also have a sulfur atom, and that sulfur atom still needs 8 electrons to reach an octet. Some quick math tells me that I'm going to need a total of 12 electrons for these atoms to be stable. Then I need to calculate my available electrons. I have 2 hydrogen atoms, each of which has 1 valence electron to contribute, plus 6 valence electrons from sulfur, to give me a total of 8 electrons to work with. To calculate my shared electrons, I'm going to take my needed electrons, in this case 12, minus my available electrons, in this case 8, which gives me 4 electrons that are going to be shared. Dividing by 2, since that represents the number of electrons in each bond, tells me that I'm going to need 2 bonds in my diagram. My last step is to calculate the lone electrons. In this case, I have my available electrons, or 8, minus my shared electrons, 4, to give me a total of 4 lone electrons. Now it's time to identify our central atom. While it's true that hydrogen is farther to the left on the periodic table compared to sulfur, hydrogen can only form 1 bond with another atom. As a result, that means that sulfur must be my central atom for this molecule. So I'm going to start by drawing sulfur, and then my next step is to connect my 2 hydrogen atoms to this sulfur. Looking at my diagram, I can see that each hydrogen atom has one bond or two shared electrons connected to it. Since hydrogen only requires 2 electrons to be considered full and stable, my work with hydrogen is done. However, sulfur, which has those same bonds connected to it, only has 4 electrons shared with it at this moment. Sulfur, unlike hydrogen, requires 8 electrons to be considered full and stable. So I need to add my lone electrons to sulfur in order for this to be a complete and finished diagram. Now sulfur has 8 valence electrons, and each of my hydrogen atoms has 2. If I double check my work, I'll see that I have a total of 8 electrons represented in this diagram, which does in fact match my available number of electrons calculated up here. Now that we've done a few examples together, it's your turn to try this out on your own. So before you watch the solution to this problem, I'd like you to hit pause on this video and try to work it out for yourself. Once you've done your best, please resume this video and I will walk you through step by step how to determine the structure for this molecule. Are you ready? Are you sure you hit pause and took a moment to try this for yourself first? If not, it's not too late to hit pause now. Are you sure? Okay, let's work this out then. In this molecule, I have 3 hydrogens, and each one of those hydrogens requires 2 electrons to be stable. Add that to phosphorus, which requires 8, and I'm going to get a total of 14 electrons needed for this molecule. For my available electrons, I have 3 hydrogens, each of which contributes 1 electron, plus 5 electrons for phosphorus, for a total of 8 electrons. My shared electrons are still needed minus available, so 14 minus 8. This gives me a total of 6 electrons being shared, or if I divide by 2, a total of 3 bonds needed. Last step is to determine my number of lone electrons. In this case, 8 minus the 6 electrons participating in bonds, or a total of 2 lone electrons. We already know that hydrogen cannot be a central atom, which means that phosphorus must be our central atom for this molecule. My next step is to connect my 3 hydrogen atoms to phosphorus. Each one of these hydrogen atoms already has 2 electrons because it's formed a bond, so it doesn't need any more. However, my phosphorus atom currently has 6 electrons connected to it, which means it's going to require 2 more electrons to be stable. Fortunately, I have 2 lone electrons that need to be placed already. So I'm going to go ahead and put those with phosphorus. Looking at my diagram, I can see that I have 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons shown in my picture. This matches my available electrons that I determined in my second step, so I know that this structure must be correct. This is the last example that we'll be working together, and it's a little trickier than the ones that we've done so far. Let's see how this works out. We're going to start by determining the number of needed electrons, the same as we always have. In this case, I have 3 atoms, each of which needs a total of 8 valence electrons. When I multiply that, I'm going to end up with a total of 24 electrons needed. For my available electrons, I have 4 electrons from carbon, plus 2 oxygen atoms, each of which contribute 6 electrons, for a total of 16 electrons available. My shared electrons will be equal to 24 minus 16, for a total of 8 shared electrons, or after dividing by 2, 4 bonds. For my lone pairs, I have 16 electrons minus 8 shared electrons for a total of 8 lone electrons. If we look at both carbon and oxygen on the periodic table, we'll see that carbon comes before oxygen, meaning it must be my central atom. Are you starting to notice a pattern with carbon? I'm going to begin by connecting my 2 oxygen atoms to carbon, which requires 2 bonds. Now, the problem we have here is, based on my calculations, we need 4 bonds in our diagram. I can't add any more oxygens because my formula tells me that I should only have 2 oxygen atoms in this molecule. So instead, I'm going to form what are called double bonds. Double bonds are exactly what they sound like. 2 bonds between the same pair of atoms. In this case, each oxygen atom is double bonded to the carbon atom in this middle. Looking at my structure right now, I can see that carbon has 8 electrons attached to it. So carbon has reached its octet. However, my 2 oxygen atoms currently have only 4 electrons connected to them. So I will need to add 4 more electrons to each of these atoms in order for them to meet their octet. That works out well, since I had calculated that I needed 8 electrons to complete my diagram. Well, folks, that's all I have for you today. We'll be working with trickier substances soon, so make sure you've mastered this skill. If you need another tutorial, check out the video above. Or, if you feel comfortable with this, make sure you review your notes so that you can compare how ionic Lewis dot structures differ from covalent Lewis dot structures. You can also get ahead of the game by taking a look at a video on molecular geometries, which tie in with Lewis dot structures and will be our next topic of study.